You're listening to SIBN Radio, powered by Salette USA TV. Tune in 24/7 at www.415-96radio.com. Follow us on Twitter at Salette USA TV and on Facebook at www.facebook.com Salette USA TV.
Welcome to the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. Keenan Lake is the author of the book My Daddy Taught Me That, published by Welcome, a social worker and activist. You can like this show's fan page at www.facebook.com/The Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. Feel free to post any comments, questions, or requests for his book on the fan page. Now let's go into the studio with your host, Mr. Keenan Lake, and co-host, Marcus Select.
Responsible, accountable. Who taught you that? My daddy taught me that. That's right, the new book, all the way from Asheville, North Carolina, representing the legacy of Benny Lake, is Keenan Lake, the author of My Daddy Taught Me That, the book and the program for young men in Asheville, North Carolina, and throughout the region. Tune in to the program, the project, and the book at MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com. For more information, email lake@MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com or call 828-582-2261. That's 828-582-2261. MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com.
This is SIBN Radio, and you have just tuned in to the Keenan Lake Show. I'm your host, Keenan Lake. I am a published author, book My Daddy Taught Me That, a public speaker, and the president of a men's development youth program. The purpose of this show is to create awareness on topics that are dear to my heart, primarily absent fathers, male role models in the home, youth and young adults and children, families, and neglect and abuse. I not only want to shine a light on these topics and create awareness on these topics, I want to educate, inform, encourage, and motivate. So please join us on the Keenan Lake Show.
Hello?
For more information about the Keenan Lake Show, give us a call at 415-967-2346. And we thank you for listening to SIBN Radio.
All right, welcome to the Keenan Lake Show, live and on demand. Keenan, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, we're having some serious technical difficulties. I apologize. We have stuff going on at the last minute, and you can start talking about racism. So just stand by here. Let's see if we can cue you up a little bit more here. Keep on talking. How you feeling today?
Well, Coach, I'm doing well. You know, this morning got off to a kind of a shaky, rough start.
Doing all right. Still
you know,
trying to get you. Stand by.
Can you hear me at all, Coach?
We're having some really challenging times here in the studio. Stand by. I'm going to go to commercial break, Keenan, and then we're just going to have to come back. Let me see if I can run and get a new set of headphones, because my headphones went out right when you were calling. We'll be right back after this.
Now is the time. Your radio show on SIBN Radio. You're ready to share your message with the world. Then call 404-910-5019. That's right, call 404-910-5019. Producing your radio show on SIBN Radio. For more information, dial 404-910-5019. That's right. 404-910-5019. Now is the time.
Responsible. Accountable. Who taught you that? My daddy taught me that. That's right, the new book, all the way from Asheville, North Carolina, representing the legacy of Benny Lake, is Keenan Lake, the author of My Daddy Taught Me That, the book and the program for young men in Asheville, North Carolina, and throughout the region. Tune in to the program, the project, and the book at MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com. For more information, email lake@MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com or call 828-582-2261. That's 828-582-2261. MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com.
I'm Nomvula, aka Sunshine, and we here in South Africa are tuned in to SIBN Radio at www.415-96radio.com. If you would like to know more about the SIBN television and radio network, complete a contact form at the website www.415-96radio.com. Salet USA TV, reaching the world.
All right, Keenan, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Barely. Stand by. I'm still making some adjustments here. I mean, it is absolutely ironic that everything went out right at the wrong time. Stand by 1 second here. I'm going to change out something here. Just 1 second. Go ahead on and introduce your topic, Keenan, because you're live. It's just that I can't hear you. I can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me in the studio, Coach?
Yeah, I guess I can hear you a little bit. Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, Coach, I hate it's unfortunate that happened. I know how these technical things work, particularly when you're doing the show, via over the web and cell phones and telephones and stuff are used. Today I have a great guest. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Marcellus, and he's actually, I want him to introduce himself more to talk about all that he does, like I do with all my guests on the Keenan Lake Show. But today we're going to talk a little bit about racism, stereotypes, try to understand more about not only racism, Coach, and again, I'm not sure if you can hear everything that I'm sharing with you at this time, but understanding the culture, understanding different cultures, and also focusing on racism. And I think we'll have a pretty good topic and be able to cover some information, be able to share some information, and be able to shine a light on an issue, Coach, that we've talked about several times on the Keenan Lake Show before, but be able to bring more awareness to it so we can start finding some results, start finding some things that we can do to kind of curb and change not only the cultures out there, but the stereotypes and individuals who deal with racism. This is something that's very prevalent in our country. Everybody knows about the Donald Sterling situation that's been going on in the NBA for the last month now. So just being able to shine a light, Coach, brought some awareness to this topic. Are you able to hear me, Coach?
Let your guest introduce himself.
Hey, Marcellus, can you hear me on the air?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, sir. We sure can. Marcellus, go ahead on and introduce yourself to our audience out there so we can get you on and let everybody know who I have on the show today.
Well, my name is Marcellus Love. I'm an Asheville native, and I'm a personal trainer, fitness consultant, and I am just a black male that is aware of our current situation. I'm just a gentleman who learned to open his eyes, who learned to look with his open eyes.
Yeah, so,
I can hear you.
Being pretty modest. You can hear us now, Coach?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So, to all my listeners out there, Marcellus is being a little modest. He's a lot more than that, too. He's also very efficient, fluent, and knowledgeable in mixed martial arts, fighting, all that kind of stuff. He's been trained in that kind of thing. He's a very conscious, aware man, reads a lot, very informed. So, with all those things that he mentioned, he left a few things out. He's also a husband and a father as well. So, wanted to make sure that we got that in there.
Well, I apologize, Keenan. I'm just trying to be humble, and as we continue to allow this subject matter to evolve, I'm sure people will have a chance to get to know me a little better if they choose to. And
exactly.
I welcome new friends, acquaintances, and so on. So let's go forward.
All right, Coach. So listen, getting started with the show, Coach. We wanted to talk about a little bit about racism. We talked about this before, but myself and Marcellus had a conversation a few days ago, and what I want to do is start the conversation off and kind of let it evolve from there. So one of the things I want to talk about, Coach, and before Marcellus speaks to anything, because he's actually going to be our expert on this topic, seeing that this is something that he's living in and dealing with every day. But Coach, are you still able to hear me on the air, Coach?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. So, Coach, what we want to talk about and start the conversation off is this. As we were talking the other day, we talked about, mixed couples, interracial relationships. And we talked about the attitude of African-American women towards African-American men when they date outside their race. Primarily when you're dealing with African-American women and African-American men dealing with Caucasian women. It seems to be that there's a stereotype behind that. It seems to be that there's a kind of a misconception or a put down on the men with that, Coach. So I wanted to ask you first what you thought about that.
So make sure I understand the question. The question is that there are black men are stereotyped when they date outside the race?
Yep, primarily with Caucasian women.
Yes, I mean, there is a stereotype there, and unfortunately, it stems from the stigma from back in the day. What's he doing with that woman, so to speak? People have said, well, love is love, but no, I don't think that they should be stereotyped. If I could just put my 2 cents in there, and there's a number of reasons why, but I will say up front that it's only fair that people are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the depth of the love they have in a relationship. Okay,
Marcellus, you want to weigh in on this a little bit?
This is across the board, and I'm glad, King, that this. I'm sure that this will be an ongoing debate, subject, what have you, in the near future. The issue that I'm having. Can you hear me good?
Yes, sir. Hear you well.
The issues that I've seen others deal with, and it's about the programming. Social media, I believe, is one of the worst, if not the worst, and most influential of how people perceive each other. And my issue, I'm sorry, I'm driving right now, I apologize. My issue, one of them, is how black women deal with white men, black men with white women. Now, I happen to be with a Caucasian woman. She's Italian, of Italian descent. And when I saw her, I didn't say, hey, look at that white girl. This was an individual who talked to me, who gave me the time of day. I don't believe that I'm an ugly man, or I believe that God has made everyone attractive to some degree. And everyone's made for each other. The issue that I had was, sure, I dated black women, growing up, but it was women. I'm a man. I'm not anything but a man. So I wanted a woman. If I'm a teenager, I wanted a girl in my life. So if it was white, black, Puerto Rican, or she was Asian, what have you, if I'm attracted to her, she's attracted to me, we're both smiling. So that was never the issue. People have their own preconceptions of what an interracial relationship is. And, until you're in one or you've seen something, in a movie or on television, you can't relate. One of my friends, I don't think he would mind me using his name. I'll just call him Terry. He's a black gentleman. He was married to a black woman for 12 years. He moves away. He has a great job. He works hard. He comes home. She's seeing someone else. Yet he's given her everything that she's needed to have children. And now he's going through a divorce. Well, this friend of mine, since he's going through this divorce, I said, look, I've got your back, brother. You can stay with me. When the kids would come to visit, they'd stay the weekend. I mean, he's a great father. And as far as I know, he was a great husband. Well, he asked me, he said, Marcellus, I've never dated a white girl. Now, for some reason, people, because you date one or two, I can date 10 black women, but if I date 2 white women sometime in my life, it seems like I prefer white women. That's not the case. I talked to Terry, and Terry began to date a white girl. And he said, wow, man, there's no difference. Not as far as being human. Now, culturally, yes, there's some differences. But guess what? Black people understand a lot of the white culture. They want to call the black community, they want to say that we have a subculture. So we'll just say culturally we're in check with white people. We see the shampoo commercials. We understand why white women or white men have the greasies and things like this. But white people don't understand why black men or black women put oil in their hair. They don't understand these things. So again, we go back to social media. So back to Terry. Terry's dating a white woman, so another one of our friends turns to him and he goes, oh, you've been around Marcellus, so I guess you are going to date white women now.
So I take it, Marcellus. So this was a African American woman who made this comment. You've been around Marcellus. You're going to date white women now.
Actually, it was an African American gentleman who had a black woman.
Gotcha.
And he's going into a second marriage with a black woman. Not saying that black women are bad. I love black women. Don't get me wrong. That's just where I was at the bus stop. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the driver of that bus just happened to be a white woman. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you really quick, Marcellus, and I'm gonna let you finish this thought. But I wanted to give, I want to give our audience, I want to give Coach something to say something on this matter as well. But let me interject real quick. What I've heard, and this is my opinion. This is what I've heard, and so from Keenan Lake's opinion, what he's heard is this. I don't think it's ever an issue, let me rephrase that. I don't think it should be an issue, or I don't think the masses should get so upset when you find 2 people who truly love each other and they get married or they get together and they have a family no matter what race, creed, or color they are, black, white, green, purple, whatever. I think that the confusion and the problems from as far as society as a whole, I think what they say is this. When you have, particularly when it comes to African American men, and then I'm gonna actually go back after break and talk about why I think, black women may get a little maybe even upset or bitter about the whole topic. But I think that when you look at an African American man, and I've had friends who said this, and I have friends who say white women are are less of a distraction. They're not as mean or as you have more conflict with African American women. All these things come up. African American women or let's say Caucasian women are more likely to be more submissive. Is a good word. They let you do more.
Let me interject. I want to address. We have to address it a piece at a time because this is across the board. We grew up. We saw the Brady Bunch. We saw the white mother. We saw the white woman on all of these TV shows. We can from Three's Company to whichever generation you have, and the role models of black women have have never been as, I don't want to say positive, just apparent. So we get it. It's like, okay, well, white people don't seem to argue, but that's a lie too. They're human, but we don't see that. So again, it goes back to social media programming us. The black woman is a beautiful woman. I mean, an incredible woman. Naturally, the melanin in my skin draws me to black women.
Right.
But again, you grow up being taught, you know, a certain thing. You know, I grew up I'm a country boy, so I grew up, you know, where my grandparents cooked chitlins. Now, if I'd never eaten that, I would never eat it. But that's part of my programming. So it's the same thing. We deal with a society that's been programmed with white women, white women, white women, white women. Cheryl Teagues in the 1970s was the cover girl. All we had was Lola Falana in the 70s. Forgive me for showing my age. But as time goes on, you know, even the images of what we want to say are real black women, they're intolerable. This is what the media projects. This isn't my perspective, just the media. So when it comes time for some men to want to talk, oh, well, that guy is the nerd. This comes from black women. I'm, you know, working in gyms and being a bodyguard and working security and even bar and nightclub security over the years, you see all kinds of people. And, you know, often I've seen black women make it hard for themselves. Now, don't get me wrong, no one should have to answer to, you know, wolf calls or anything. But I tells you, you're compliment. Don't ask him why he's talking to you. Don't be angry because he finds you attractive and you don't want him. And, you know, those were the kind of things, that's what I was getting at, Keenan. And that was part of the story. That when it came time, Terry is laughing and smiling with this white girl, and now his friend is angry at him for dating her. But, you know, what he had to say was, hey, man, I was married to a black woman for 12 years. She cheated on me, took all my money, and now I'm homeless. So it has nothing to do with color as when it comes to happiness. So the racism is pushed by social media. I think, and I'm not making excuses. There are bad people in the world. They're good and they're bad. And I think they're very, and there are people that you know, just follow the crowd, no matter how miserable it makes them.
Well, one of the problems I think I hear you saying, though, which is very valid, is women in today's culture are harshly affected by two mediums, culture and medium. How we do things, what we prefer, culture, and then media, what the media markets paint the pictures of. And I think what I hear you saying is that pictures had been long-standing in the minds of black women and black men about white women, which for the most part had been healthy, but pictures for black women had been absent from the screen, as it were, or from the scene, to give men a balanced look at women in general. What I think I also hear you saying is that culturally speaking, and I'll go on the limb on this one because I don't mind getting in the hot seat, culturally speaking, we know, Keenan and I have talked about this plenty of times, that there has been pre-planning and strategy to keep the black woman at a certain level economically to dominate the home, to dominate the relationship X, Y, and Z, and to keep the black man below, I don't know the word there, but below a certain level. That way,
the social ladder.
Right, always experiencing recidivism, always experiencing injustice, always someone's afraid of them. I was afraid for my life. You know, they got the new thing. They shoot people to kill them, and then they say, well, I was afraid for my life. That's all you got to say now, is I was afraid for my life. This re-emerges the image that you must be scared of a black male. So I think the validity to your statements are yet in play. They're still in play. Black women may listen to this and they'll get really pissed and really mad, and that's okay because we all have feelings about this and we get riled up. But the fact of the matter still remains that black women are being played in many respects. Now, some escape that play, but they're being played on a larger mastermind scale to look skewed, and black men are being played to look, like monsters, criminally speaking, right. And on and on and on. So it's valid. And if I might say what it should come down to is a compliment that you are global enough to bypass your own personal experiences and to connect with someone that perhaps it takes much more courage to do that. That's of another culture. I think that should have been a compliment that you did not get discouraged and then turn around and damn all black women and say, okay, well, all of y'all ain't no good, and go that far. But it took courage to step across cultural lines. This is a cultural issue as well as a race issue. And say, you know what, I'm going to explore and see what's good for me. Keenan, what you think?
Well, Coach, I think that you and Marcellus made some valid points, particularly about social media. I think that's been something that's been, particularly on our African American women. You put a model on TV for decades and decades, and it's a blind-eyed, blue-haired, Caucasian woman, and this is a standard of America to look like this, to be like this. You need long, straight hair. The hair, African Americans' hair, which is really naturally curly and stuff, is not accepted. Yeah. So I think that's a definite point to draw to. But I think when we go even further, the point I was trying to make is this. From what I've heard and from what I've been told is that, and this all comes from, the circles that I've traveled, the things that I've seen, the way the media plays and stuff, and the way I perceive it is this. When you, and don't get me wrong, I have friends, I would never say their name on air, but I have friends or associates, I should say, who have told me I would never date an African-American woman again, and these are African-American men. I would only date, more than likely Caucasian women because of X, Y, Z, because of this, that, and the third, or because my African-American sisters are too demanding, to this, to that. Mm-hmm. And the way I view it is this. Whoever you fall in love with is this, and this is my belief. Whoever you fall in love with, whoever you want to be with, it doesn't matter what color they are, it doesn't matter what race they are, what nationality they are. If you love a person and that person can hold you down and do whatever, that's great. You be with that person. What I've heard was that when you are an African-American male and you only target a certain race and you leave out your own race, because, and this is the thing too, let me just say this, let me retract, let me back up again. What I also heard was that when you are African-American male, and I would like, Marcellus, you and Coach are a little older than me, so I would love y'all opinion on this, but what I was told was that, and what I heard was that black women have a certain amount of strength that only black men can deal with, and we can only not so much control, but kind of balance us as well. And so what the saying is, and what I've always heard is that when you only target other women outside your race, it doesn't make you strong enough as a black man. How would you guys like to talk about that? Or what kind of comments would you guys have about that?
I think that's ludicrous. I will say that. I will say that, first of all, women in general takes courage to engage an intelligent, beautiful woman of any vernacular and to carry on an intelligent conversation and to be daring enough and caring enough to take that further into a relationship and to even go further, courageously speaking, and propose or get engaged. So that being said, we know culturally that black women in general have a hostility at times against black men, not necessarily because they themselves do not hold black men dear, but because black men have been painted a monster for so long that even women, particularly the ones that do not or have not had, since this show is My Daddy Taught Me That, had not had a father who was caring and showed them balance in dealing with women, These particular women, absent of that, though they may get therapy, though they may heal, though they may be able to make a comeback, I will tell you, and I'll go on a limb, I'll be in the hot seat, I'll get some emails. Women without fathers, a father figure, someone, some man to show them the way, or someone to model before them how women should be treated, I have found them to be hostile, highly intelligent, though they may be beautiful, though they may be multi-level, talented, rich in many cases, but they're hostile not because they want to be, but because the brush and the paint is still fresh on the canvas regarding the black men that they're engaging on a daily basis.
Very, very good, Coach. Go ahead, Marcel. Before we go to our first break, I'm going to let you go ahead on the comment on that as well.
Well, the whole thing that a black woman is designed for the black man. For me, human beings are designed for each other if it's right for you. My feeling on this, I can only speak with experience. I say hello, I say hi. How are you, what have you, to break the ice with a black woman. There are black women who don't want to hear that. They want to hear, what's up, how you doing, hey, come here, girl. They want to hear what the social media has pushed. They don't want a hi or a hello. Then when you're successful, and this is from experience, you have the new clothes, the new cars, the new house, just monetary things. But for me, those are needs. For me, for my family. And then it's, hey, or maybe the comment was made, I should have been with the nerd. Now, that wasn't directed at me. That was directed at someone else. You don't wear your pants, you don't fulfill a lot of the stereotypes. They don't want anything to do with you.
Can I just say something real quick? You just said a very valid point. You said you were successful, and I'm not rubbing this in anybody's face, but let's just call a spade a spade. You're successful. You're a bodybuilder. I'm imagining you're in tip-top shape. When you work security, listen. When you work security, you don't play. You're sharp. You're kind. You know the difference between when you're on the job as a security person, when you're in the halls as a trainer, and as a human being. That's balance. The balance of your personality is offensive to the message that the masterminds have told us about black men. You're a walking offense to some people because you're showing them this is what a king really looks like, and there's nothing wrong with being balanced in this matter. So that's a threat to me, Keenan. I don't know. I'm just saying, Keenan, you the same way you've been through, but I'm just saying it sounds like to me, as long as you bust down or talking hood, or nothing wrong with engaging on those levels if you need to.
We're having a hard time hearing you, Marcellus. Your phone is going out.
Better?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yeah.
The thing with that is the subculture, and I talk like that and this and over there, but when it's that is a language. That didn't mean that I couldn't learn another language. I've learned some Russian. I've learned some Chinese. Mm-hmm. I've learned some Japanese, and that's because of my martial arts, experience. I'm meeting, this is a multicultural environment that I'm in. Mm-hmm. So getting to know people, and I love people. And don't you ever think, and I have to say this again, if anyone is listening, I wouldn't ever push away. I've never forgotten my blackness. Mm-hmm. Upside and the downside of that. My mother was black.
He's breaking up. Yeah, Ken, he's breaking up. Marcellus, you're breaking up. Hey, we're going to go to a commercial break. Marcellus, hold that point right there. And when we come back, maybe you can move to a different position or something, because it sounds like you're on your cell phone. But I want you to hold that point. You said you grew up, when you was talking about your mom, how you grew up. Hold that point. We'll be right back. Keenan, we'll be right back in a minute, okay? Stand by.
All right.
You're listening to the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. We'll be right back after these messages.
It's always been a part of me to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Whether on my block or around the world, My name is First Lieutenant King, and I move toward the sounds of those who are in need of help.
The few, the proud, the Marines.
Entry invalid.
Mode. Mode.
The Windows Phone 8X by HTC on Verizon. It features easy-to-navigate live tiles that are simple to customize. Just pin what matters most right to your home screen. Exclusively with DataSense, a feature that makes the most of your plan. Only on Verizon.
Hey, Mike. Where do you have to?
Just diagramming this accident with my State Farm Pocket Agent app. You can also get a quote and pay your premium with this thing.
I thought State Farm didn't have all those apps.
Where'd you hear that?
The internet.
And you believed it?
Yeah. They can't put anything on the internet that isn't true.
Where'd you hear that? The internet.
Oh, look. Here comes my date. I met him on the internet. He's a French model.
Bonjour.
State Farm. More mobile than ever. Get to a better state.
Aaron, I was able to save you hundreds.
Yeah, discount, double check, I know. I'm kind of over that move.
So are we.
What?
It's a little, soft.
No, it isn't.
It
is. They wanted something with a little,
Like what?
Do it with me. Ready? Discount, double check.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying.
Right?
Matthews.
What's up, dude?
He plays football. Professionally.
Hey, Rogers! Move! Matthews!
You could save big with a discount double check. Only from State Farm.
You're listening to SIBN Radio on the Select USA TV iBroadcasting Network. You're listening to SIBN Radio.
Hey, thank you for joining us for the Keenan Lake Show right here on SIBN Radio. My name is Marcus Lake. Keenan Lake is on deck, and our special guest, Marcellus. Marcellus, you got that point?
Yes. Are you there?
Yeah, go
we
ahead.
can hear you just fine.
Okay. No, what I was saying was, they say naturally we want women like our mother. My mother's a black woman, so who wouldn't want? My mom was a beautiful woman. I always heard that from other classmates. They reminded me about how beautiful my mother was. And, I mean, we just see our moms, they're beautiful to us anyway. And so who wouldn't want a beautiful, woman that's a natural to you? I know I am. And it was just the right place at the right time for the woman that I'm with. And as black men, we want that. We want the black woman in our lives. But then I think we're coming full circle again back to social media with the MTV and the list goes on and on. Even our black women, they're dyeing their hair blonde. They're wearing blue contact lenses, or even the hazel contact lenses. They're doing white women things. And it flips right back to how white women act like what they think is. And I don't
you're going out again, Marcel. That last thought was lost.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, but it's almost every other word is kind of getting lost.
So there's a little bit of lightning where I'm at, so it may be the storm. I apologize.
Oh, no problem.
The issue is that the situation is that black men have learned to just look at what they see. Not even good for them. They see what looks good, and that we're given. Halle Berry is half white. She still looks black to me. That's the issue. But black woman can't look like Halle Berry. Am I making sense?
I personally think that Halle Berry is one of the most hostile. That's just me. I mean, I see beyond.
I agree, and that's bless you for bringing that up, because she is very violent.
Mm-hmm.
She can't keep a relationship or a white man.
Yeah, and that's just back proves to your point. First of all, we as black men, those of us who are serving in any capacity, any professional, I think that the lessons that we could learn from this, if it was up to me, would be global and not local. If you're local, you're going to be confined to a painted picture, the paint will be wet, the brush is wet, the canvas is still wet. But when you go global, when you go European, and I'm not talking about the choice of women or anything, I'm just saying in your mind, your experiences, in your outlayers, in your intentions to get to know people. And you may find they're from Australia, they're from Belgium, they're from, I think that is one of the lessons that could help us at this point. But Keenan, I want you to ask your heart's question regarding the racism factor and how that plays into today's culture.
Well, and going back, Coach, what you guys are talking about is wonderful, but it's almost like this too. And you actually mentioned something to the tune of this, Coach, as far as parents, particularly fathers. We know that this has been an epidemic that has taken place across the country. It's affecting every race, black, white, Asian, you name it. It's affecting every race across the entire globe, where men are not stepping up, taking care of our families, and men are not in the homes, and our youth and our children are being raised without the primary function of positive males in the home. So with that, Coach, and Marcellus, if you guys listening, isn't it our responsibility? So, because we can't, and no one on this show, let me just say this, no one on the Keenan Lake Show is ragging on women, primarily African-American women at all. I want to make that clear. In fact, what I'm thinking is this. When we're talking about the disconnect, Coach, you mentioned something very important. I want to bring this back up. You mentioned the economical status and also the way that if you look back over our heritage and over our history, there has always been a divided break where they wanted to separate man from woman, okay? They had their reasons to do this. They wanted to separate and get the man out of the home, and they wanted to pretty much turn the woman against the man, primarily in the African-American community. So are we still seeing the results of that today, where we still have, and then the other thing you mentioned, Coach, was this. With that break, with that separation from man to woman, you're starting to see a female who's improving, who's learning, who's growing, and you're starting to see a male who's not keeping up, so to speak, with that, or at least that's the premise of it. So with those things, go ahead, Coach. What were you about to say?
I was saying that was very well said. I mean, the African-American community in general is improving. I left my stats in my briefcase, but one of the stats says that we spend 44% more on education, period. But we also spend almost 52% watching more TV than reading. I mean, so the African-American community overall is improving, but what's leading the pack in that improvement, as you just said, is African-American women. But what we're seeing also, what single men who may or may not have anything to do with anything being painted on the canvas, they're seeing a reactive African-American woman. They're seeing a hostile African-American, highly intelligent, very articulate, beauty with the cocoa bottle shape and all that, but when they open up their mouths to try to engage them in conversations, they are met with the absence of those values that perhaps a father involved or man acting in the father's role, the fatherhood in general, that is the missing. That's what the show is all about, folks. Let's not forget what the show is all about and how we're tying this in. That male fatherly input into a woman's life is so valuable. And it doesn't mean that if the father is there that the girl is going to develop and do everything right either. That doesn't mean that either. So let's get it straight. But statistics show that there is brokenness in relationships more so when there is an absentee father. When I say absentee, I mean either he wasn't let in or he didn't want to be in.
And that's true. That's true.
You know?
Well, I'll tell you, if you don't mind, if you were done, Coach. Again, it goes back to how we're raised. Since we want to talk about the father, or just the family unit itself, you've heard the term. It takes a village to raise a child, and that's been washed away.
Yes.
We're not allowed to assist barely even our own families now. But it's hard to discipline the neighbor's child. I don't necessarily mean a spanking or whooping, just verbally, guiding the kid down the street because he's up the street acting a fool. Mm-hmm. And, if we even say anything now, hey, son, don't do that, then we have to deal with the angry mother who doesn't have the father in the household. So we're still not allowed to help, the community. And that's what this show is about, is finding a way back in, is it not?
Yeah. I mean,
awareness and a way back in to help each other.
Well, the question I want to ask you is that, and Keenan and I hadn't discussed this, but I'm sure that we could discuss it in another show. Where is the village? I mean, racism, first of all, one of the ills of it is separatism. And so we're alienating ourselves from one another by choice.
Now, I'm sure that there are black women out there right now saying, well, you're alienating me by being with a white woman.
Yeah.
And it's such a touchy subject.
But listen, one of the stats that I was studying today says that there is, I hope I can say it correctly, the black race is growing faster than any other race. So that, they used to have this thing back in the day where if you're with a white woman, you're not populating the race will be minimized because, But the black race is growing faster than any other race. And guess what? They're producing more African-American women than any other race. The leading human being in the African birth rate is female.
But, I guess to answer that, Coach, and it's a part of what I do, part of some of the research that I've done, you can almost say that might be by design. When you look at, these are some stats that I wanted to throw out there too real quick. It's kind of off the subject a little bit, but for example, the sagging of the pants, that whole phenomenon, these men who sag their pants now, we always knew that was a problem with the gait, the hip, the knees. We always knew that would affect your knees and your gait and all that kind of stuff as you've gotten older. But one of the newest researchers out there, one of the new studies that's going on out there is how after a certain amount of years of sagging your pants, it makes you sterile, okay? But the powers to be promote this. The mega superstars who rap, the mega athletes who do this, the mega people who make the millions and millions of dollars, they're targeted to promote sagging your pants to do this because they know it's a culture who do it. And so for the most part, if it's going to make you sterile, so anyway, there's a whole hidden agenda behind that, Coach. But Marcellus, you're absolutely right. The Keenan Lake Show is here to raise awareness on issues and topics, to be able to help families, help our neighborhoods out, and you're right, to get back to where, that whole village is involved. Because the sad thing about it is this. With my program, my daddy taught me that working with young men, being able to try to help these young men out and do things that was done for me by my father, I can't do it by myself. So being able to have that village behind me to help me out, is much needed, and it's the only way that anything's ever going to get done. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, if we don't come together, say that again.
So go right ahead, Keenan. I'm sorry.
If we don't come together as a race, as individuals, as a nation, because the thing I told somebody the other day, it's not only a black problem, it's not only a white problem, it's a world problem. And if we don't start tackling these issues together, we're going to be faced with some situations like that I had to deal with this morning. So real quick, we're going to kind of, we got about another, 10 minutes, Coach, maybe?
Yeah, you want to say 8 minutes because we got to have our closing.
Okay. We got about another 8 minutes real quick. And I want to tell Marcellus, you and Coach, what happened this morning. So I'm over at my mother's house this morning about 10 o'clock on Sunday, 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. And as I'm in the house, my mother says, the neighbors across the street are having some problems, something going on. Well, I open the front door, and there's 5 young men, ages 18 through 19, or actually ages 18 to 20. I knew all 5 of these young men, okay? They're in front of the neighbor's house talking about what they're going to do to the young man if he comes off the porch. And I'm going to take your flag. I'm going to do this. Well, of course, that means if I'm going to take your flag, that means that you're in some kind of gang-affiliated stuff. So these young men spend the better half of 10 to 15 minutes yelling, screaming, cursing. So finally, I go down across the street, and I say, look, all of y'all come here, let me holler at y'all real quick. So they all walk up. I said, first of all, it's Sunday morning. Second of all, you guys are right in front of my mother's house. My elderly mother's sitting up there, and y'all are here making all this noise. I need for y'all to get yourselves together and take that out to go head home. But as I started thinking about it, my whole day has been affected by this because, first of all, when things like this happen, it makes me feel like that I'm not doing a good enough job reaching these young men. But ultimately, it also makes me think this, too. Marcellus, you might can relate to this because you live here in Nashville. Coach, for years, they have been talking about gangs and this and the third, and people always say, well, gangs are not prevalent here in Nashville, North Carolina. You know, it's not nearly as bad as an Atlanta or a New York because we're not a major city, or Charlotte, you know, stuff like that. But what's happening and what's really scary is this. It's not so much that it's not here. It's just taking a lot longer to get here. But now that it's getting here, it's hitting Asheville very hard, and it's a very scary situation because these young kids don't have a clue, and it's really driving me crazy because it's like it's up on the writing is on the wall as clear as day, but they're not recognizing it and they're not seeing it. So that's the scary part, and I think ultimately it's a society issue. And the same thing that you said earlier, Marcellus, as far as the social media. The way the stuff plays, and it's changing our culture, our generation, and these kids.
The thing I see, and I see it every weekend, when dealing with the black community, and again, I hate to generalize the black community. Man, we are diverse, and no one seems to recognize the diversity in a positive manner. They always find the ones that think they're better or want to be better. Or you could do better, but you pretend that you're better. So we can't communicate on those grounds. As far as dealing with the violence and the gang, you know, I'm going right to it. It's media-driven, and the black community, you know, they don't have anything to do. How many black businesses do we see in downtown Asheville between Fisher Park and you know, up around the Vance Monument? None. There are none at all. And the black community is not welcome, and there's that underlying rule that, you know, I don't know where it came from, but it's like we can't participate in anything in downtown Asheville, or we don't feel welcome. Well, guess what? I go downtown Asheville, and I get the looks from time to time, not necessarily because I'm with a white woman, whether I'm by myself or with a group of my black friends. You know, I still get the look, and then they talk and they go, you know, you speak well. In other words, you just told me that you thought I was stupid, or you made the assumption that I didn't have brains. So the thing with the black community, I'm going to go right back to language. That right now, that's all we have that can break down the barriers. Remember, you know, we talk about how ignorant black people can be. White people are ignorant too. They don't see. They look down. I'm in the gym. I'm at work, and I still get white women that walk by and look at the floor and look at the wall until they pass me. You know, so we're right back to racism again. So with the young black men in our black community, I have to talk to them every weekend, and when they have to realize that talking can fix a problem. It can actually fix the problem, not the gun, not the violence. You know, so I think maybe part of our answer today, part of the solution is communication. Let's start talking to each other again.
That's good. And you know what's funny? You started the show talking about how you was talking and speaking to a young lady who just so happened to be of a different color, but because you are a man of principle and believe in communication, this relationship evolved, and others are looking at the optics of it rather than the content, and understanding that this was a result of your willingness to go across your feelings, experience, the past, even the things you knew you would inherit as far as problems and all that, just to speak and to speak well and to hear well, just to have a decent conversation. Back to what Keenan was talking about. I mean, so many of our young men do not know what you just said, that you can solve much more with talking and listening, even though, you know, you're upset. you're mad, if you calm down and talk and listen, you'll have more in common. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a very powerful point that you just made. I am very, very uplifted by that statement.
Well, and Coach, let me just say this.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Marcellus. Go ahead before I start to close out.
The thing is, I'm not to plug my book, and this is, it's nowhere near done because it's living. And the reason I think that way, Coach, is when we go back to the Bible, there's so many principles to live by biblically, and we've heard that all our lives, but a different perspective of things. So the thing that I look at is thou shalt not lie. And that means me not lying to myself first. Then I can think clearly. You see, when I have to lie to me, then I have to make up for the lies, and then when confronted, I have to defend my lies. So now we're getting more of the answer to what the problem is in the black community. Mm-hmm. Our lifestyle as black people is a lie. Mm-hmm. The sagging of the pants. Rich black people don't do that. Rich white people don't do that. Mm-hmm. The subculture is attractive and it's entertaining, but it's not lucrative. Mm-hmm. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're making some great sense. Yes, sir.
So,
but you're always
again,
welcome.
I'm looking for solutions. I'm not looking to necessarily debate all day, every day, and argue with my black sisters about who should be with who. Let's find a solution together. Let's become a family again.
But real quick, Keenan, we have those same hidden racist tendencies, is what I call them, when we see a white pastor over a black church or a black pastor. I've never really seen a black pastor over a white church. I'm sorry, but but when we see those types of scenarios, we still see the eyebrows. We still feel the uneasiness. So it's not just in relationships, but also, in a black home. If you ever went to it, I think I might have went to one there in Asheville. But even if going to an all-white restaurant full of blacks or all-black restaurant full of whites, so we have these things, and I think your guest today said it well. Let's talk more about the things that matter, and let's debate less about the things that don't.
Very well said.
Coach, I want to leave with something. I need to leave this, and there has to be a balance here. There's some
50 seconds.
The intellectual black woman hasn't been addressed here, and which not saying that others aren't, just expressed, and they tend to be single. Mm-hmm. That's an issue in itself. So
we got to come back and talk about that. That's a good point. That's a good point, Marcel. Got to come back and talk about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Keenan, we got about 25 seconds.
All right, Coach. Well, listen, before we close the show, Coach, I'll make my point during the next show. Folks, we want to thank you for tuning in on the Keenan Lake Show again. We really appreciate your support. Please, if you need to have any questions, you want to get in touch with me, go to my contacts. First of all, go to the website, www.mydaddytaughtmethat.com. Go to my Facebook, Keenan Lake. I also have a My Daddy Taught Me That Facebook. And finally, Keenan Lake on SIBN Radio. That's another Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at The KL Show. And finally, folks, please go to my website and vote for me. I am being awarded, I've been recognized for the Black Man Can Award. This is an award addressing all the positive work that I've been done in the community. It's a national award, so I'm one of the 5 finalists. So I would really appreciate your vote. Go to the website, click on the link, look for me under literature, and I really would appreciate your vote for that. In the meantime, we thank you for tuning in. Thank you very much.
Hey, Keenan, maybe we can have him back for the next show. Check his schedule, man. Great show. Listen, you've been listening to the Keenan Lake Show right here on SIBN Radio. Keenan Lake is the host. Don't forget now to visit www.mydaddytaughtmethat.com. Please, whatever you do, pick up a copy of the book, My Daddy Taught Me That, and share and donate in the programs. This is the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. Until next time, take care of you.
Thank you for joining us today. for the Keenan Lake Show. We know you will be empowered as you consider the content shared by Mr. Keenan Lake, co-host Mark Select, and our guests. For more information about Mr. Keenan Lake, please visit www.mydaddytaughtmethat, and feel free to email us at lake@mydaddytaughtmethat.com. Books can be ordered from Mr. Lake by calling 828-582-2261. Until next time, you've been listening to the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio.
You're listening to SIBN Radio, powered by Select USA TV. Tune in 24/7 at www.415-96radio.com. Follow us on Twitter at Select USA TV and on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Select USA TV.